Hello everyone and welcome to our IVF webinar. Again, we have with us tonight Dr. Jon, so I'm happy to have you back with us. Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes,
How are you?
perfect.
Perfect,
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for confirming that. Please let us know that you can hear us. We definitely want to make sure that you can hear us. And well, there is another topic we are here to discuss today. Very important one. But first, let me just show you our ambassadors and partners. I just need to remind you that those events has been brought to you with a huge help from them. So again, thank you. You can see all of them right here on the screen as well. And I have already mentioned to you, we do have another topic, and today it's actually, should I try my own eggs? Last time, when to decide about going for egg donation, and I've already mentioned to you, our guest tonight is Dr. Jon Aizpurua, and I'm sorry, I hope I said it correctly.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you. And he's the founder and president of the IVF Spain, which is located in Alicante. And he will explain to you and will answer your questions. So remember, all you need to do is type in all the questions you have in the chat section so that Dr. Jon can answer them for you and help you out a bit as well. And so we will start with the questions that we have on the screen right now, right? And then we will go for your questions. So are you ready to begin, Dr. Jan?
Yes, I'm ready.
Perfect.
Okay. I think the title is quite defining what we should speak about. I would like to introduce this topic in a way like that everybody would understand. In the question of the title is implicit that most of our patients have already tried IVF with own eggs, and when to define the time to go over to donated eggs is indeed a difficult question. But I would like to comment in general terms that although donation of eggs is the most efficient and easiest way to achieve a pregnancy and the most successful treatment in assisted reproduction technologies, which is absolutely evident since decades. For sure, fighting for their own eggs and fighting for their own gametes should be our initial approach, should be our initial attitude, any case. So for us, this is like a philosophy, and to go over to treatments with donated gametes is a pragmatic solution. Is sometimes the unique way to still keep hoping. But at the end, it's an assumption of an unsuccessful approach with own eggs, which is a pity. We are all victims of delaying motherhood. We are all victims of not having been educated the right way. We are all victims that the technology of freezing eggs was not available 10 years ago. So at the end, a lot of patients are confronted with these topics, with these dilemmas, not because they wanted to sit here and have to take this decision, because we missed to do something properly in the past. So this is my introductory sentence, but now we can go to the first official question, if you want, Caroline.
Yes, of course. Here's the very first question. How many times should I try my own eggs? When should I stop trying regular IVF?
Okay. How many times? This means there is a cumulative effect of frustration, possibly, in most of the patients. Yeah, and I would not fix it just in the frequency of frustrating trials. I would fix it much more in the quality of those cycles that didn't succeed, and in exploring the reasons for that. Yeah, it's not just a matter of how many times. You can make 20 times IVF in under optimal conditions and expect the same result as making 5 times IVF under perfect optimal conditions. So it's not only about how often, it's also when, it's also where, it's also with which kind of technology, and depends mostly on what did the results show. Is there a bad egg quality? Is there a bad stimulation capability? Is there a higher aneuploidy risk? Is there an advanced age? Are there metabolic disorders like polycystic ovaries? Is there something like endometriosis or adenomyosis behind? So this general question can't be answered in a general way with just saying one number of how many trials. It's much more differentiated. Each patient should have an answer or an estimation of when is the time ready to go over to changing the technology. And it depends on so many factors. Yeah, that I mentioned just a few, but there are others like psychological distress, like emotional strength, like costs and economic investments, like wish of and timing of wishing the desired childhood. So there are so many aspects. So this is at the end very difficult to give a general answer. But maybe I can mention a couple of examples, or later on some of the patients can describe their cases, and I would give an estimation of what I would recommend to them under certain conditions. But for sure, this is, and I would to remark this is at the end a decision that patients have to take themselves. We doctors can only inform, can only show evidences, can only advise about options, but the final decision should be taken together with the doctor, but driven by the patient. This is our philosophy. This is our aim, and we take a lot of efforts on informing them properly, in order that they can make this decision informed and consciously. Do you think we can go to the second question, and then later on maybe explain on some examples how it could be? Yeah, okay.
Perfect. There's the second question. What tests are there to find out if I have bad quality eggs, or if there is another reason for implantation failure?
Okay. We made another webinar a couple of weeks ago, more in that direction. And there I explained already, there are no true parameter to know if the eggs have good or bad quality. There are some indicators. There are some prognostic factors. Most of you know. This is the appearance and the blood supply to the ovaries, the volume of the ovaries, the number of antral follicles, the stimulation capability of the follicles, the AMH and some other hormonal profiles that can reflect some of the reserves estimations of eggs. But about the quality of eggs, it's even quite difficult to know in advance. It's even also very difficult to know at the precise moment you have the eggs, because we could make a lot of investigation on one egg once we have retrieved it after stimulation and make analysis on it. But the same, the limitations are, even if we manipulate the egg to study it, we cannot use it. And this is not worthy, and nobody would do that. This is ethically not responsible to make the efforts in analyzing the egg and destroying it without knowing how it would behave. This is why we only have estimative predictors. As I mentioned, we have no serious analysis of the quality of the eggs, just how they appear to be, their consistency, if they are granulated, the form, the maturation grade. But there is no evidence for us to say, or the polar body biopsy, but there is no evidence to advance and predict how an egg that we have will behave. So that at the end, we can only learn by doing. And we can only diagnose those eggs as bad quality eggs that behave wrong after fertilization, or even fail at fertilization, or even show to give us embryos of bad quality. This is an indirect way of assessing the quality of the eggs, but it's a very useful one, because at the end, it's about the functionality of the eggs, not about their molecular potential. It's about the functionality. What we know about eggs is the immense link and dependency on age regarding their chromosomic balance. Yeah, aneuploidy and age of eggs is something that we really can define in advance. And just to mention, so more than 50% of all eggs after stimulation in a 35-year-old woman would possibly have some kind of genetic disorder. Even at blastocyst stage, where a lot of filters already applied, there are still 40 to 50% of them that are aneuploid. In a 40-year-old woman, this is even more. Approximately 60 to 70%. So this gives us a picture how dependent the quality of the eggs in terms of genetical competence is just on the age. And this is the big problem that we arise when we handle with advanced age treatment for women. Regarding the metabolic competence or the molecular capacity of an egg, we can check it during the development of the embryos using time-lapse technology, for example. So this gives us also a quite reliable picture if the mitochondrial supply of the eggs is correct, if there is enough energy to make all the cell divisions at the right time and in the right path. And together with the genetic competence, the metabolic competence can give us enough information at the stage of the embryos to say if this was a good quality egg or not. And there we have developed our own mathematical algorithms in our clinic, taking all these small details together, and in order to predict then how these embryos coming from this egg will behave in terms of implantation. But implantation can only not be addressed to the embryo. Yeah, so also in the case we would have the best possible or the best thinkable embryos of the world, not all of them will implant. There are other reasons for implantation failure, but we should remind that the most common reason for implantation failure, I would estimate something between 70 and 80%, is a bad quality embryo or a chromosomic unstable embryo. But the rest, 20-30%, could be something related to the endometrium, to the immunology, to the receptive organ of the uterus, to the blood supply, to a lot of things that we should distinguish. Yeah, because also if we go for egg donation, the endometrial factor will still be there, and we will need to study it separately. And this is the way to have the information about the quality of the eggs that can be used today, and this obviously helps a lot then in order to give further recommendations or advice to patients when to change the strategy. If we see, obviously, independently of the number of cycles performed, if we see cycles that produce very weak embryos with very high genetic instability and with a very, very poor implantation potential, at least then, yeah, we should make an estimation of efforts and efficiency of investment and of expectations in a way that the patient can understand, okay, if I follow in this path, this will take for me so much time, this will take for me so many resources, and at the end I will have this and or that expectations. Yeah, and if the efficiency, the costs, and the time are with own eggs in such a bad predictive situation compared to the egg donation figures, which we know, then patients have to decide.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the detailed answer to that question. I know we could go on a lot more, but let's go to the next question. Is there a way to improve the quality of my own eggs?
Yeah, the best way would be to turn back the time and make you 5 years younger, but I think this is not yet possible. Also, there are some efforts of doing things like that. So rejuvenation medicine or regenerative medicine is aiming to reprogram tissues in order to let them behave younger. So this is something which is under clinical trials nowadays. Look quite promising, yeah, I have to admit. And for example, we have a known department only researching this area and offering clinical studies for that. But having said that, at the end, there are not only supplements, there are only support with hormones. There are only recommendations about a healthy lifestyle that could help improve the quality of the eggs. Obviously, eliminating toxins or poisons for sure, or medications or drug abuse. So there are a lot of ways of depending on where you start to improve a bit the quality of your eggs. But having said that, it is mostly something congenital. So if there is a hormonal disruption in the maturation of the eggs, this is something which is usually inborn. Yeah, sometimes this could get worse with environmental appropriate stimuli, but we cannot turn nature to something it never was before. With all these supplementations, we can keep you as your best possible shape, but we cannot magically turn it into something different. Even if we could turn the time back and rejuvenate your ovaries, you are now 43, and we could work with your ovaries that they would be 38, the quality of these ovaries and of this eggs would be your quality with 38, not the mean average quality with 38, or the quality of the best and most fertile patients with 38. So everything keeps restricted and limited by the congenital, inborn, driven by genetic polymorphisms and individuality that everyone has. So to summarize, so we can improve the quality of the eggs a bit, yeah. We can turn them back to their best possible stage. We can even, we are trying to turn it also back in the time to make them behave genetically better, but at the end we can't change so much. These are given factors. These are constant parameters in our big equation.
Perfect. Once again, thank you so much for answering that question as well. And next one is right here. Who would you recommend an egg donation to when egg donation is the best choice at the first try?
Obviously, in those conditions where your ovaries got removed, for example, yeah, so, or where you have a congenital disorder with no ovaries, or when you have a genetic disorder where the ovaries will not run, or even when you have a chromosomic disorder that like a big translocation, or that at the end would only generate or mostly generate embryos with a very bad prognosis. So there are primary indications for egg donations. And historically, this was the beginning of the egg donation. Egg donation was thought for patients that missed their ovaries. This is how everything started in late 80s. And in the meantime, we have learned that there are other indications that could profit from this knowledge and from this generous, often altruistic gesture of our donors, providing their gametes to patients that for many different reasons would benefit from using younger eggs. So this is the magic behind, yeah. And at the end, we have enlarged the indications historically to a point first where only absence of ovaries was indicated, later genetical disorders about ovaries, then chromosomic disorders, Turner syndrome or others, then recurrent abortions, then implantation failure, and at the end, I have also seen in my career patients that came to our clinic with 38, yeah, and they said, okay, or with 40, and they told me, okay, what is the time to a pregnancy I have to expect with my own eggs? What is the cost? What is the security you can give me that everything will go around? And what is the evidence with own eggs and with donated eggs? And then they realized, okay, the shorter way, the easiest way, the less invasive way, because I don't need to go through OP theater, I don't need to go through stimulation and so on. And at the end, I will have a much better result than going for that. They were not so in love with themselves that they said, I prefer my own eggs. They said, pragmatically, let's go for the donation. So this is the outer indication, yeah, where it is the patient by their own wish that prefer for efficiency reasons and for safety reasons to go for egg donation. But as a first try, as the question was formulated, it's originally not only in those cases where working with own eggs is impossible because they do not exist or because they do not function properly.
All right, perfect. Again, thank you so much for that. And next question is, what are the steps of an egg donation? Would I have to be at the clinic for the entire time?
So the steps of a procedure, it's easy to explain. I would do that later. I would first start with the steps mentally. Uh, I think most of the patients that are listening to us today, and because there are most of the patients that at the end get an egg donation are at the dilemma, still trying with my own eggs or not. So they are at the dilemma of what I am doing if I admit a third party into my family. Yeah, and this is a philosophical, ethical, and very personal psychological dilemma. And this has also steps of maturation, and this has also steps of accommodation. And most patients, the first time they hear about egg donation, they think, "Oh my God, nothing for me! I would never do that." Then, so the first phase or the first step is rejection. Later on, when they realize, okay, this is egg donation, or possibly I will keep childless, then comes the phase of accommodation. Then after that, they start asking, they show interest. And then there's the third phase is the phase of assumption. They assume, then finally, so this is something I could imagine, I could realize. And after that, when they go ahead, uh, assuming consciously what they are doing, usually with the success of the treatment, with the delivery, then the fourth phase starts. This is the phase of congratulation, of happiness. And most of the patients, I can only remark this, tell me usually after a successful treatment that they forgot about the original doubts and the original fears they had, and once they have their child in their arms, they forget about all these personal dilemmas, and because nature is so strong. Yeah, once you have the responsibility of a child, once you have the future in front of you, you don't think more about the past. So this is what patients tell me after successful treatments, and this is the way they process all this information inside. But coming to the organizational point of view of which steps, the first is a first visit. The first is having a serious and deep consultation with a doctor, explaining all the options and possibilities. Then the second is preparing the endometrium in a test cycle. We do that way, and assessing with biopsies of the endometrium, the AirMap receptivity test, the IMAP immunological test. In some cases, we take also HLA profiles of the couple to make then a genetic matching of the appropriate donor. Because once we have decided to go ahead, and the matching, so the most important part of the treatment, this is looking for and finding the most appropriate donor is the key to success. And there are some genetic, some immunological aspects should be respected. And once we have all this done, obviously also with deep sperm analysis covering DNA fragmentation, apoptosis, and other things that could interrupt later on the proper development of an embryo. Once we have all the diagnostics things done, then the same as in the test cycle, we prepare the patient in a real cycle for transfer. Sometimes we need sperm fresh, sometimes not, and then we go ahead with the generation, with the selection, with the analysis, sometimes with pre-implantation genetic screening of the embryos and the transfer. So this is the way to look at that, and this usually needs only to come 2 times to the clinic. The first time for 1 day or 2 days for this first visit, and the second time for a couple of days for everything around the fertilization and the transfer. And this is more going to the second question. So patients don't need to be the whole time here. Yeah, once we have recorded all the profiles, we have started the matching of the donor, we have the results of the diagnostics, then we do translate everything without needing them here, to the stimulation of the donor, to the fertilization, and so on, and they need only to come a second time then for the final transfer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you once again. Now it is our last question when it comes to that, but of course, right after we will go for your questions. There are plenty of those already, but let's go to, oh, sorry, that was actually
This was the last.
yes,
Okay.
sorry about that. So thank you so much for all the details already. And as I mentioned, we have plenty of questions. And so are you ready, Dr. Jan, for more questions? Perfect. Happy to hear that. And now let me start with the very first one. I am 38, had already 6 cycles with own eggs, 20 good embryos without PGS. I was 3 times pregnant. Should I try one more time, or is it better to try with egg donation?
So this is one of the typical examples. Yeah, 6 times. This is a big effort already, and I would understand that she feels tired. Yeah, but to fix things in a way that I can give her a reliable answer, I would need to know more about the quality of those cycles. The fact that the PGS was not performed is not enough. It's because I would say with 38, if she has a good AMH, if she's still, I would say above 1.2. If she still has antral follicular count of between 8 and 12, if the quality of the blastocyst and the blastocyst rate of these previous cycles, despite of not having success, was good, so the metabolic competence of the embryos was good, then we know exactly that with 38, approximately 70% of the blastocysts will not be genetically good enough for a healthy newborn, but this keeps just the window of hope open. This would mean studying properly other possible reasons for the implantation failure and fixing on generating embryos, this time genetically tested, this time also metabolically competent, showed by the development. There is still a hope. Yeah, there I come back to my first premise and my first recommendation. We should fight for their own gametes as long as possible. So this for the technical medical part. Then, if she tells me, I am not only tired, I am close to frustration. I have spent so much money. I don't have time to make more IVF trials. I am close to my nervous collapse, and what I need is a success in a short time. So if, having said everything that I said before, if this applies, then I would say, let's go for a donation now. So I think I have not given her the answer she expected. Yeah, because I miss information. I can just remember her that also we have free consultations and Skypes, and so Caroline will let you later know which are our contact data. If you would be able to forward to me all this information I mentioned before, I can remind it to you. Then I can give you a much more accurate answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yes, of course, you can definitely get in touch. And all you actually need to do is even click on this website right now, and you are able to ask your questions, and it will be directed to the team, IVF Spain team, and Dr. Jon, and they, I'm sure, will be able to help you with more details. Okay, thank you so much. And now let's go to the next question that we have. If you use donated eggs, are you still classed as a biological mother? Do you share any DNA due to the process of growing the embryo? Hello? Okay, sorry, it seems that we are having a bit of a technical issue. I will double check it. Please don't go anywhere. We will definitely fix it, okay? All right, so I am back. Dr. Jon is reconnecting, so don't worry, he will be here. We have just a slight technical issue, but he's connecting right now and will be with us in a minute. I will let you know as soon as you will see him, but just in case, sorry about that. Hi. Hi, Dr. Jan. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, all is okay now. That's good. I'm happy that you were able to reconnect. So all is working right now. Perfect.
So sorry for the delay. This was a technical problem. I can compensate it staying a little bit longer if you want.
Perfect. Thank you. And of course, the question is right here.
Okay. If you use donated eggs, are you still classed as the biological mother? Do you share any DNA due to the process of growing the embryo? Very good question. You are classed as the biological mother for sure. Yeah. This depends obviously on the law on each country, but the legal mother is the mother who delivers. Yeah, usually in Spain it is in our constitution. So this is basic law. This is why in Spain surrogate mothers are not allowed. Yeah, so biological mother is the delivering mother. And obviously there are three instances there. Yeah, the donor, the husband, and the biological mother. And it's true that the DNA in the growing embryo of the biological mother, of the recipient mother, gets also included in their genome. It's quite interesting. There are quite recent findings around that, where it is not only possible to find embryonic DNA in the blood of the mother, it's also possible to find a mother's DNA in the tissues of the. This is like micro segments that they get implemented. So, but at the end it makes sense, yeah, because immunology or even the placenta is an interface organ with two directions always. And if it is possible to integrate DNA in one sense, there is also a possibility of integrating it in the other way. And there are very soft and very small soluble factors of the genetics, also of the epigenetics, like microRNAs and things like that, that do influence on both sides. Yeah, the gene expression of the mother influences the gene expression of the fetus and otherwise. It's amazing, but it's understandable because this is a unit, and where one is the environment of, or belongs to the environment of the other, and there is an active bidirectional exchange, not only of nutrients, not only of poisons, not only of hormones and fluids, also of genetic material. It is amazing at the end, and this is the area of the epigenetics. At the end, it's not only about the hardware, yeah, of the genes, which are the chromosomes. It's more about the software, which genes inside these chromosomes get activated when and how, and this depends much more on the environment and the biological mother, and the very early impregnation through the whole development in a pregnancy makes that the driver of the epigenetic events on a very early fetus is the biological mother, which has this way also influence on the genetics of the fetus. And this is why we speak about a three genetic party environment.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for that. And the next question, I'm sure you will have more questions to the patient. However, if you could take a look, I am 42, had already one fed IVF. Can I still try with my own eggs?
For sure, as long as the ovaries are sane, as long as she has time, as long as no other impairment exists, like low quality of the eggs, or even as we mentioned, metabolic disorders or endometriosis or whatever. So as long as she belongs to the 42 or 42 aged woman with a good AMH and a good ovarian reserve, there is still place until 43 to have success, or to expect success rates using approaches like we do with embryo banking and PGS, of at least 60 to 70% of take-home baby rates, which is a lot.
Okay, thank you. And actually, from the very same patient, there are a bit more details. Okay, so I had fibroid when did my first IVF with one egg collected. After 24 hours, I got told that the egg could not fertilize due to the fibroid. Now that I have removed the fibroid, I want to go for another IVF in Spain. I am 42. Can I try with my own eggs?
With my own egg, this was singular. This was not plural. This doesn't sound good. This doesn't sound good. First, fibroids have nothing to do with fertilization failure. The most possible reason for the fertilization failure was not the fibroid, but much more the quality of this egg, because quality and quantity are, in terms of ovarian reserve, are very closely linked. The less follicles and the less eggs a woman is able to produce in a stimulation cycle, the lower quality they usually have. Usually, there are exceptions, but usually this is closely linked. So having only one with 42, 43, this is not only a problem of age, this is a problem of a very poor response. This is a problem of impaired quality with a fertilization failure. This is difficult to try with own eggs. This is a case where only in the case that egg donation should never be an option for you where you could try with regenerative medicine in order to have at least a couple of eggs more, and for sure those with a better quality. Then maybe you have still a gap or a window of success open. But just like this, trying full stimulations to have an egg that get not stimulated with 43, in a couple of months you will be 44, and then this is like climbing the Himalaya. The higher you climb, the less oxygen you will have there. And then you need to take an oxygen mask. This is an egg donation to come up to the top of the mountain.
Thank you for clarifying that then, of course. Next question is right here. So what are the pluses and minuses of choosing the PGTA option in case of a donor egg?
Okay, the basis or the basic information to that is, I mentioned before, what is the aneuploidy rate in 35-year-old woman, 50%, and in 40-year-old woman, 60, 70. But the most relevant thing is that most people don't know is that already in very young stages, a 20-year-old woman has also 20% of the blastocyst aneuploid. Yeah, and usually donors are between 20 and 30 in our clinic, or maybe some of them are 35 in other countries or under circumstances. With 35, half of the blastocysts will be aneuploid, and even with 30, it will be something around 25 or 30%. This is one of 3 or one of 4. So is this an option? I think this is not only an option. I think the time will come where this will be mandatory. Why should we transfer embryos not knowing that they have 0 chances of making you pregnant? Why should we transfer embryos that we know they could make you suffer a miscarriage with complications? Why should we delay your time to success having the technology to avoid that? So the pluses are very clearly, you can increase the success rate per transfer. You can shorten the time to pregnancy. You can bring down the risks of miscarriages. And at the end, you could nearly come at the same effect of cost effectiveness, because if you consider you could make one cryotransfer for nothing, this has also costs that could get compensated this way. And the minuses are even ethical problems for people that do not want to manipulate the embryos. Although we know that this manipulation usually only residually harms the embryo, so in a way that gets exponentially compensated by the benefits. But so for people that for religious reasons or for whatever don't believe in pre-implantational screening, because they also would not perform prenatal screening, and if they get a baby with Down syndrome, they will love to deliver it and to create a family with that, which I profoundly respect. So people that think like that, okay, head up, go ahead. But for all other cases, I think most of our patients will come in next future to the dilemma: should we use it or should we not use it? And there, even efficiency, time to pregnancy, and costs, mostly costs. Once the costs can get decreased, there are no reasons not to perform this for everybody.
Okay, thank you again for answering this question. Next one is right here. I'm 49, 15 July. Should I go straight for donor eggs?
Absolutely, yes. Our regenerative program ends at 47. And our law foresees, in Spain at least, in other countries I don't know, but also for medical reasons, that the limit for egg donation should be 50 years. So until you get 51, all the process should be closed. So this means you are in hurry to start as soon as possible a program with egg donation. Otherwise, you will miss the opportunity of getting pregnant, or you will need to go to situations where beyond 50 you will assume also risks for your pregnancy and for your own and for your newborn that are not sustainable. So go for that as soon as possible.
Of course. Thank you so much again for that. And there's another question coming up here. When choosing the egg donor, some clinics tell you to choose the same blood group and some not. The donor I chose doesn't look like me and doesn't have my blood group, but has a good health history that we like. Is that okay medically wise?
Medically wise, so a good health history should have every donor. So this is not an attribute the clinic should be proud of. Yeah, this is why donation programs should focus on selecting only donors that are checked genetically with the preconceptional screening, checking for more than 200 recessive diseases and things like that should be chosen by us a family and medical history, should have physical tests and be free of toxins, drugs, and nicotine, things like that. So this is the basics. Then that the donor doesn't look like you, this is something that is not optimal in my opinion. And that it has not the same blood group is non-relevant. We usually advise our patients, although the law says the patient has to be physically as similar as possible to the recipient. Obviously, if you are a small clinic and you only have 10 donors, the most similar to you can be completely different. If you go to a bigger clinic with 500 donors, it's much easier that they find someone that is from the ethnicity, from your shape, from your body mass index, from your face, very similar to you. I think this is something which is relevant, yeah, and you will find yourself reflected somehow also with that. But the blood group is really a stupid thing that doesn't help. This was historically one of the criteria to match the donor, but it has absolutely no sense. The only sense it has is if you don't want to tell your child, which is something we have also learned in the last decades. This is a wrong approach. So you better should tell your child that it came from IVF at a certain time, and when it's mature or in the adolescence or even in the adulthood, explaining everything clearly, transparently. You have nothing to hide. If you love a baby before it gets born. And if you use this technology in an anonymous way. But selecting the blood group is only reasonable if you don't want to tell your child, and it finds out that mama is A positive, papa is zero negative, and I am B. So then they learn this at school in the biology. Someone and your child first could find out this way that you cannot be the genetical mother, and this is a catastrophic situation on the basis of hiding this information. If you share this from the very beginning openly, then you have absolutely no benefit in matching genetically the haplotypes of the blood group. You would have much more benefit if you match, like I mentioned before, genetically the HLA and KIR haplotypes. This is relevant because this could help your body not to reject the embryo and to decrease your miscarriage rates if you have suffered from repeated miscarriages, and this could help you increase your success rates. But blood group is stupid, in my opinion. The this is why we let our patients disclaim us from the obligation of matching the blood group. It's just a letter. And the donor similarity, I think it is relevant, and the health history is mandatory.
Perfect. Thank you so much for, again, another question and as well as your answer. Next question is right here. Do I have to inform baby's doctor in the future that we are not biological parents, double donation, for example, when they would ask about family health history?
Not only because they will ask about family health history, just for mental hygiene. Yeah, living with a lie of with hidden truths is nothing which I would recommend to anybody in any other situation. I think if you get parents through double donation, this is for sure not because you are so sophisticated that you choose that way of getting parents. This is because you had no option, and this is a very strong decision, and this also shows a very strong wish from your side going ahead with this child wish this way, which is a very honorable attitude. And I think to explain to a kid this is nothing so dramatic. You should obviously take care of which time, how prepared the mind of a child, depending on the age, is to assume certain things. So there are a lot of psychological advices and times and recommendations and working groups. So you should go open in the way that is recommended by psychological family psychologists' recommendations, and then you will live much more relaxed, much more comfortable, and your child will understand that, and it will be happy that you have decided for that way, because otherwise he or she would not exist. And I don't think you have asked also your parents, or they have asked you for permission of generating you. This is nature.
All right, perfect. Thank you once again. There are plenty more questions coming up. Let's have a look at the next one. How much information would you get about the egg donor in Spain? I understand looks are much, but what about family history, education, interests?
So actively, the law in Spain restricts a lot the flow of information from the clinic to the parents, even to avoid breaking the anonymity precept, even to avoid that the medical act, which is an egg donation, could convert into a commercial issue. I don't want this, I don't want that. And at the end, it's a matter of confidence, it's a matter of seriosity, it's a matter of professionalism, that managing cycles of creating life and helping people to create families should be an act that requires a lot of responsibility. And in our way of working, for example, we make or we apply much more stronger filters in the selection of donors than just family history, education interests, or whatever. So we put the emphasis on safety, on healthy status, and then we are obliged, as I mentioned before, to maintain ethnicity, to maintain physical looking. We have adapted then the genetic matching, which improves the immunologic implantation, and once this is given, and the process of selection of the donor is fulfilled, this is the guarantee and this is the evidence for the patient that all these could got respected. There are for sure patients that asked us once all these steps are done to say, okay, but I would like a donor. Take a look at the education, that she has the same educational level as I do, or the same interest or cultural meanings or whatever. We can do that. We can do that, but only after the first selection of the donor candidates, putting emphasis on the law and on the medical conditions. Yeah, but not otherwise. But because then. We cannot give you any record. This is your donor. This is her family history. This is her education. This is her interest. Because the law does not allow that. And at the end, if you trust your doctor, you also don't need that. Yeah, if you don't trust your doctor, yeah, then also if it gives a document like this to you, if you don't trust him, then don't trust this document too. It's a more complex thing where a lot of interests have to be aligned, and where professionalism and seriosity are basic requirements.
Of course, thank you so much once again for yet another question and detailed answer, as always. And of course, let's have a look at the next question, quite a longer one. I'm 40, but have unexplained infertility and AMH of 7.6. I've had 3 rounds of IVF. Apart from my second round, I've ended up with 4 5-day blastocysts on round first and the third one. I've had 4 successive miscarriages, including 2 chemical pregnancies and 2 early delayed miscarriages at week 5. Found out at 7 weeks scan. I've only got the energy for 1 more round. Is now the best time to switch?
So I think she has always already given us the answer. If she has energy for 1 more round, I understand this is 1 more round with own eggs, right? If this is true, that she has more energy for 1 round with own eggs, then I would do a lot of things in another way. Yeah, these miscarriages are not normal. Yeah, there are there have to be a very deep analysis of the immunology of as a possible cause of these miscarriages. For sure, also the genetic part of the PGS, the genetic part of the sperm, should be studied in advance before making just a round more. So if she has only 1 shot more with own eggs, then please take extremely care about the genetics, about immunology before going ahead. If it's 1 shot more at all, then please go immediately to egg donation, because after all this story of unsuccessful trials, and with 40, it is possible that also under best conditions and using best technology, you don't get a stable pregnancy with a high percentage of success. So knowing this, that you could be with 40, and after this history, in the best case, if you could generate in 1 of those cycles a blastocyst with this aneuploid and transferring it into an enhanced immunological environment, could give you, in the best case, something like 60% of success rate. This means 40% of non-success. Then go better for 1 round of egg donation there. You will have 3 transfers regularly, and an expectation of take home baby rate higher than 90%.
Perfect. Thank you so much for another answer. And there's another question, of course. There are plenty more. So let's have a look. I had 2 natural pregnancies in 2018 at 41, which miscarried. Then 4 rounds of IVF, only 1 embryo formed, but wasn't viable. I stopped developing day 3. Will be 44 next month. 1 more IVF or straight to donation.
Straight to donation. If regenerative medicine, which is a very promising technology, but still under validation and still under clinical trials, is not an option. Yeah, is not an option for her, or is not an option because he doesn't fulfill the inclusion and exclusion criteria of being included in such a study. So, assuming she will not, or she will not like, then go ahead for straight donation after this story.
Perfect. Thank you so much once again for your advice to that. And let's have a look. There are more questions, so let me show you here. I am 44, single, 1 failed IUI, 1 cancelled IVF cycle, ovulated early, 2 second IVF, 2 eggs at egg collection, fertilized but didn't survive 24 hours. Advice: poor egg quality. Should I try again with own eggs or egg donation?
The same. So possibly she will not fulfill the requirements for being included in a study with regenerative medicine. So, but if, then this is the only way to avoid egg donation. If this is not possible or she doesn't want, then after this story, I will go direct to egg donation, the same as the last one.
Understood perfectly, of course. Thank you so much once again. Now we have another question here. Male 45, he might turns 46, TTC since mid 2018, 2 miscarriages, first at 9 weeks, second at 8 weeks, 4 chemical pregnancy, no underlying reasons for miscarriages, no male issues, female borderline APS, 1 cycle of IVF in February 2020, 1 egg collected, fertilized, embryo transfer at day 5th with 3 AB, positive pregnancy with blood tests, level in ranges but on low side. Following tests, 2 days later, levels dropped. AMH last week was 1.83. Should we again try IVF with own eggs or move forward with donor eggs?
Okay, the first thing that is evident to me is no underlying reasons for miscarriages is wrong. Sorry, but if you started 2018 and you are currently 46, this means you started with 44, and with 44, the blastocyst rate of aneuploidies is around 90%. So you should have had 10 transfers in order to have one of them with a true chance of giving you a healthy newborn. So it's no surprisingly that this didn't happen. Even transferring embryos without previous PGS, the most probable thing to happen was what unfortunately happened, that either the pregnancies didn't happen, or if they happened, they got lost very early. So the most probable reason for explaining so many miscarriages is the genetic reason. But we cannot exclude other reasons, yeah, because there are so many cases you report here. So my advice would be to test also genetically the sperm of your husband with karyotype. Go for sure for egg donation as soon as you can, and check also immunological possible reasons or receptivity impairments on your endometrium that may also apply for a donation cycle.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. We will be slowly finishing. We have plenty of questions, but I want to let everyone know that, of course, we will simply forward those questions to Dr. Jon and his team, and I'm sure they will be able to get back to you with more details, okay? So I will send you a link where you can also get in touch with the team as well, but perhaps we can have a look at some 2-3 questions, okay, Dr. Jon?
Yep. Okay,
Perfect.
go ahead.
So next question is, what is your view on DHEA to improve egg quality?
DHEA is a precursor hormone to the human growth hormone, which is implied in the maturation of eggs and which fails in cases like PCO or aging ovaries, and it has showed to help to improve the quality of eggs in many circumstances. So it's cheap, it's safe, it has no contraindications and no adverse effects, so there is nothing to lose if you take that. This is like a mild anti-aging program. Much more efficient is taking growth hormone directly, but my view on DHEA is positive.
Okay, perfect. And how about Q10, as there is a very similar question?
Q10 has also, this is a coenzyme, is less impactant than the endocrine hormonal way of DHEA and growth hormones, but it improves some of the metabolic processes of the cells surrounding the egg that provide the egg with growth and maturation signals. Okay, I have nothing against that, but it's less effective than hormones.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for clarifying that. Well, next one, it's not really a question, but I just want you to see that, okay? Literally everything you are saying right now is hitting home, exactly the same route for me. Thank you so much for talking about this. I needed this. Thank you for that comment as well.
Thank you for the feedback.
And well, next question is right here. On average, how many cycles might be needed for a successful outcome with donated eggs?
Optimally, only one. As I mentioned before, we think pre-implantation genetic screening on embryos from donated eggs makes sense. And in our experience, transferring one single embryo, which is metabolically competent, this means a good time-lapse shape, and genetically competent, this means proven euploidy after biopsy and pre-implantational genetic screening, this single embryo has an implantation potential of average 72 to 77%, which is a lot. So it's much more probable that you get pregnant with the first embryo right at the first shot than not. And if you still have one or two more, this accumulates your chances in a way that, as I mentioned before, more than 90% with one single treatment, which could imply 2 or 3 transfers, could expect a baby at home with at least 90% of probabilities.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much once again. Okay, and it will be our last question for today. Okay, however, I want to just reassure you that we will simply follow all of your questions, and I'm sure the team will get back to you with much more details as well. Okay, and the question is right here. I am 41 and have had initial AMH test which was very low. I was advised to not consider using my own eggs. Can I consider using donor eggs? I'm also single, so would be looking to use donor sperm.
Okay, the 41 is encouraging, but very low AMH tests over a long time is a very bad predictive factor. And if you has been advised not to consider your own eggs, this has probably also reasons of the architecture of your ovaries, of the antral follicular count. So taking all this together, the most or the strongest predictive values like AMH, antral follicular count, and age are not on your side. Knowing this, so go, and if you are ready to use donor sperm anyway, then embryo donations could be a very, very, very easy, very, very efficient, and very, very affordable option for you. Some embryos also get donated from other couples, and then clinics do not charge the full treatment only to you, but only partially. So if you are free in your mind to accept the embryo donation, this is possibly the shortest way to success and the easiest way for you.
All right. Thank you so much once again. As I mentioned, that is our last question. We do have more questions. However, what we will do, we will simply send those to the team, and I'm sure, right, Dr. Jon, you will be able to get back to the patients and your
Yeah,
team.
usually we answer in the next 2 days to all the questions.
Perfect.
So tomorrow we will sit together and we will give them more detailed
Perfect. Thank you so much.
answers.
You are also offering online consultations, right? So
Yes, now we are confined here in Spain and still in this COVID crisis. So we have made a lot of valencies free to attend patients online and taking 15, 20 minutes for a patient. Not because we want them to come to our clinic only, just to help them get orientated in this world is a thing that we would like to continue doing.
perfect. Thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you so much for your expertise. And as you can see, there are more thank yous. Again, comments just speak for themselves. Very good presentation. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure for me. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. And well, I just want to remind everyone that you will be able to find this on our website, My IVF Answers. And if you follow us on YouTube channel, you will still have a chance to simply be notified when the video is uploaded. Thank you so much, Dr. Jon. Have a lovely
Bye bye.
evening. Thank you all
The
for
same to you.
tonight as well. And thank you for your questions, and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.